Nick, thank you very much for your time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for talking to me.
Very, very busy here, Nick. If you can just summarize for us what is happening in terms of Global Soccer Schools International and Supersport and the entire tournament.
Right, so it's a very important weekend for us, this. We call it our annual World Cup. So every year, all our soccer schools participate in an annual event. Unfortunately, due to COVID for the last 3 years, we haven't been able to put this on, but we're very happy to be doing it now. So what we have is 16 soccer schools that are participating. The age groups that we're working with are under 8s to under 13s. And each soccer school competes over 4 days. So we have 2 groups, a gold group and a silver group. The reason for that is because some soccer schools are more mature than others, and the kids have been on the program longer. So we run a top stream and then a second div stream with 8 schools, and they have 8 matches each over the 4 days, 2 matches a day, and that culminates in us seeing who the winners are, who finishes first, second, third, fourth, etc. And then we have our playoffs for our final places and prizes for the winners. So there's an awful amount of excitement, and we just thank our sponsors. We thank Supersport United and of course everybody involved in our Global Soccer Schools organisation.
If you can just explain to us the relationship between Global Soccer Schools and Supersport.
Right, so Global Soccer Schools International is a private organisation run by my wife and myself. And we launched in 2010 as Brazilian Soccer Schools. And then we had a relationship with Supersport United where we joined forces in the academy space, and we also put together a junior academy. So our soccer schools changed from Brazilian soccer schools to Supersport United soccer schools, which was tremendous. It obviously helped us to promote the football club and also the support from the football club in the grassroots and junior space, which was incredible. And that allowed us to form a junior academy for the first time. So we know that Ajax in Cape Town had junior academy teams from under 8s through to under 12s, and then they competed in the older age groups. So we replicated that, and we're the first club in Joburg of the professional football clubs to do that, and I think that's fantastic. Starting at 13 is far too young, so with the support that we've had from Supersport, we're able to put a level of seriousness and player pathways in place, which is very important in football and for young kids.
You mentioned the under 8. We know, for example, in the GDL it starts at under 13, but here you have the under 8, the under 9, 10, 11, 12, and 18. How important to start at that age group, and what is it that you are doing in your schools in terms of the techniques? What are you teaching at what age group, so that by the time they get to 13 or just 12 and 11, they are able to play in the GDL?
Okay, that's a very good question. So we believe that football is a very complex sport, and it's a very hard sport to learn to play properly. So instead of starting at 8, we actually start at 4 years of age, where we have what we call our incubation. 4, 5, 6, 7 is where we go through the stages of ball mastery, teaching the kids all areas of both their feet and a lot of repetition. So we have what we call our skills badge scheme, where we have our 10 core moves, where every single touch and move in football stems from that. And then we have our moves to beat players, our turns, all the different passes that we expect the kids to learn. So that's a wonderful program, and it's yielded so much success over the decade that we've been running it, and also globally around the world. So this program started in the mid-1990s globally, and was in World Cup winners, Champions League winners, Premier League winners have all been involved in this program. And I think it's well known that it started off in Brazil. There was a group of us of Brazilian football manics that thought that their training that they implemented at their young ages was the best, and that's why they won 5 World Cups. The game of futsal has become a very, very important tool to us. So in Brazil, up until 12, 13, 14, the kids play on hard surfaces in small areas, and that yields a lot of success and a lot of good technical players. And we feel there's a lot of synergy in that with African football. So we've done the very same thing, and we sit 10 years later very proud to say that we've got players in Bafana Bafana, the junior national teams, and we've saturated the academy space with a lot of players that have come through our network.
So another important aspect in development is that development of coaches as well. In terms of training, because I see there are a lot of coaches here moving around with the kids. In terms of their training, what badges do they have, and what is your requirement for them so that they can coach these kids from 4 years old up to 13?
Okay, so I believe that it's very different coaching players that are upskilled and conditioned. In other words, let's use an example of the coaches coaching in the GDL space. So they all working with kids that have a certain technical ability and a certain amount of athleticism. But what about the coaches that have to instill all of that? So that's the space where we really thrive. And as I say, we've got a tremendous program that we spend a lot of time on. We try and have 80 hours, contact hours with all our coaches every year, split into two 40-hour periods, where we just go over the teaching of how skill acquisition, physical development in young people. The question you asked is, what do we deliver at each age? So what should a 4-year-old, 5-year-old eat in football sense, 6, 7, and how do we keep that conveyor belt going? So I say again, it's very difficult for me to explain in this interview exactly how we do it, but I think that we've shown that with our program, the work that we do and the education that we give those coaches in that space, which we look at more as teachers. We look at them more as teachers than football coaches, because when you work with young players, we have to develop those young boys and girls holistically. So it's far more than just football.
Another element, coach, is that, for example, in the Supersport GDL under 13, there are kids they were 10 years old, but from the games I've seen, they actually can compete. And that is what we want to understand, the ingredients that you put together to enable a 10-year-old who's not that physically. I'll make an example. The likes of Camden, Rocco, they are not big, but technically they are able to compete with boys who are much bigger than them at GDL. What is it that you do right at that age, in the lower age groups, to enable them to thrive when they get to GDL?
Well, I think that's the proof in the teaching and the stages of development that we go through. So we're very proud of that. And this year, for argument's sake, in my very last match, we had 5 11-year-olds that started in an under-13 GDL game. And I think Supersport are well known for that. All our teams, we try and play our kids up. We believe they're very talented, but development's not about winning matches. It's not about finishing top of the league. It's about developing and producing footballers. So if those kids are good enough and they're able to compete, then we put them in. And I think you've seen, and as you've said, that those boys are more than competent. So as an example, I've played a team of all under 13 players, and they haven't done as well as the team that I play when I have the younger players. So that just shows that it's not only about age, it's about football competency. And those young boys, those ones that you mentioned, it's not uncommon for them to train 6 days a week. In fact, they do train 6 days a week, and they've been doing that for several years, at least 4 or 5 years. And that's why they're able to do what they're able to do.
Coach Nick, at what age do you introduce perhaps what I'll call tactics? Because, you know, like I said, I've watched your games. I've seen these young kids, 10 or 11 year olds, overlapping and underlapping, making blind runs, understanding when to hold, when to release, to avoid the offside, and all those things that, you know, when I was growing up, because I didn't grow up in a formal structure of development, I was a mess. I didn't know those things. I only know them when I get older. But how do you instill that at such a young age, and when do you start bringing those elements of the game?
I think we can really put that down to the wonderful development tool of futsal. So as I said, that is our main tool in our soccer schools that we use. We train on those small courts which are 40 meters by 20 meters, some of them are a little bit smaller. And we play 4+1, which is the goalkeeper plus 4 outfield players that normally set up in a 1-1-2-1 formation. And the combinations in that are endless. And when young kids spend enough time playing that game, moving the ball quickly, they tend to develop their own understanding, spatial awareness, space and time. And I think that's the most important. When they understand that space and time from playing those small-sided games, getting used to playing under pressure, I find that the teaching of the tactics, so to say, how to teach the players the third man runs, they start getting that themselves quite naturally. They start understanding. So again, when we look at the Latin countries of Portugal, Spain, Brazil, those countries that play futsal, we look at the technical players, the tactical understanding that they have. Not that we're trying to copy that, but we do try and take the best practices that we see worldwide. And if we look at this tournament, what we're really trying to replicate in a way is the La Liga Promises tournament, where they play 7v7 in Spain, and they do that from under 8 right through till under 12, whereas we're a bit quicker, a little less impatient, and we go to 9v9 at under 10, and then 11v11 at 12 and 13. And I think 7v7 just shoulders a little bit more responsibility on the players. There's only 7 players on the park, so they're always involved in the attacking moments, defending moments, the transition is quick, and they also get to rotate their positions. So I think it's vitally important that any kid learning to play the game of football rotates in positions. They learn to play at the back, left side, right side, up front, facing with their back towards goal, and we do that incessantly every day through those small-sided games, and that helps. And also individual tactics. They say you can't teach or shouldn't teach tactics to kids under 12. We disagree with that. Individual tactics, how you defend, your body position, how you steer the players, all those things are very important, and the kids are a lot brighter than what we think. A lot brighter. And with all the information available to the kids today, and the way the world is changing, it's easier for us to create pictures for them to see, to understand, and get them to learn a little bit quicker.
You mentioned futsal and how it helps to develop these young players. I read somewhere in terms of the contact time with the ball, that you are likely to contact the ball, to come to contact with the ball a lot more in a small-sided game of futsal than in a level. Can you expand on that so that we get a better understanding?
I can be specific. 600% more the ball is touched in futsal as to conventionally 11-a-side football. So do the math. The amount of times that the kids are engaged in the game itself, touching the ball, attacking, defending, it's just, it has everything, the game of futsal. So I say again, I think after 10 years, we've shown in the amount of courts that have really mushroomed up, and the amount of small-sided games in futsal now that's starting to be played globally around the world, I think proves that point. But as well as that, the balls. So we can't underestimate the value of those futsal balls. We use a size 2 and a size 4. They're heavier, and they 10% to 15% rebound, the bounce. So that makes it a little bit more forgiving for the kids to control that ball. And if we look at the game outside today, they're playing with a size 4 conventional ball, and the field is very tight. It's like glass, so the ball runs very quickly. And we just find that with that futsal ball, the kids learn to use their soul, the outside of their foot. They can express themselves so much more. And again, that's why we're so happy with our coaching program and the results that we've achieved.
Coach Nick, going back to the tournament now, about 1,000 kids participating here. Logistical nightmare, but for some reason, everything seems to be running like clockwork. I was actually amazed. It took like less than 3 minutes for the other team to, after finishing the game, to come out and the game to start. Like the game started at the same time, game finished at the same time. How do you achieve that?
I think we're one big family, and to be specific, Stephanie Aresti, my wife that has put this organization together, has done a tremendous amount of work, and I think that's all manifests in this tournament being able to run like clockwork. And it's great. We all know when we go to tournaments sometimes, it doesn't start on time, players don't arrive, the referees, the officials sometimes don't do their jobs as we would like. So we've tried to make this the most enjoyable day for the players and parents, make it totally inclusive. So we have about 70 coaches here on hand today. We have 12 referees, and everybody's just working for the full 4 days, as I say, to put this package together, just to show respect, I think, really, to all the children, all the parents that have stood by us through COVID. And it's been a long time, as I said in the beginning of this, since we've done this. So now this will definitely become a bigger annual tournament. I think we've been approached by the Wanderers and the other people involved that can we make this annual. We feel that this is very special compared to the World Cups that we've put together before. So as I say, thank you for noticing, and thank you for my team for working so hard and being so specific.
Last one, we know, given the socio-economic conditions of our country, most academies and football schools struggling with resources. What model are you using to finance the schools and this particular tournament?
Well, we JB Activers joined us for this World Cup, and we're very grateful, and we have 2 or 3 other sponsors that have too. But generally speaking, our soccer schools run on a pay-for-play concept. So we try and make the fees as low as possible, and we try and make the coaching as good as we can. So we feel that we're the best value in sport today, in sports teaching, as the package of what we get. But the responsibility to include those that can't afford to be part of something is also important. So each soccer school has their own sponsorship responsibility, where we work in a 4-in-1 policy. So with every 4 kids that sign up at a soccer school, we can go and pull one in from a community that could never be part of that. And I think the best part of that story is at least 30 to 40% of the top players you see playing here today come from that, as well as the kids that have pulled and come through into our Supersport United Academy are our sponsored kids. The reason for that is when we sponsor one of them, we insist that they come every day. So we try and find the right kids that really deserve the opportunity, and they do. They come down 5-6 days a week. They're really hungry to improve and to be the best they can be, and that's why we yield the success with them that we can.
Speaking on the successes of the schools and the tournament, can you give us a few names of the players who come through this program who are now at the professional rank?
Yes, we can. Well, we've got Lyle Foster that's playing in Portugal, and of course our Bafana striker. We've got Keegan Allen that has just signed with Sundowns. We have 10 players at the moment that started with our junior academy from under 8s that are all playing in the reserve team, the Diski team at the moment. But I would hate to forget names. There are a lot of kids and a lot of players to mention. We're very proud of our stats. I think we're nearing on 20, 25 odd players in the PSL. The same number of junior and Bafana players. And I think it's 250, perhaps 300 players that have gone on to play in top professional academies. So those results, I think, speak for themselves.
Nick, thank you very much for your time. You can now go back and run the show. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.